And then I can talk to all of you later. All right?
Okay, best of luck, Best of luck.
Thank you. All right. Okay, bye. Just right here.
Jadi keputusannya tapi yang hanya seperti
Very good morning to all our viewers. I'm Daniel Anthony and we're live from the Palace of Justice here in Putrajaya for the court decision on the contempt of court case brought against Malaysiakini by our Attorney General. To all of you watching, welcome. It is great to have you here with us. We have just seen Stephen Gan enter the court. He is on his way up to the courtroom. Right now we are unable to cross over this line barricade that they have set up here at the Palace of Justice, as this is where journalists and video journalists are allowed to go. This is the limit of where we're allowed to go. It is a very unusual day here at the Palace of Justice because this is one of the days where we will see court cases and court decisions being delivered in this movement control order season. During this MCO, things are a little different. There will be a video feed apparently from the courtroom provided to the journalists who are inside watching the proceedings of the case. So now a little bit of a history on what is happening today. This case was the decision was supposed to have been delivered quite a while ago, but unfortunately due to movement control order restrictions imposed since March of 2020, which is almost a year ago, this has been postponed repeatedly, and today finally we are getting the decision of the contempt of court case brought against Malaysiakini. So once again, our editor-in-chief, Stephen Gan, Malaysiakini editor-in-chief Stephen Gan, has just entered the court. We are unable to go any closer as this is the limit that is imposed here at the Palace of Justice. This is also the first time that Malaysiakini is being cited for contempt of court. So it has brought a lot of attention from multiple quarters. This case is being observed by the CIJ, among other NGOs that are also observing the case and its outcome that will be delivered today. On June 15th last year, Attorney General Idris Harun filed the committal application against Malaysiakini, and 2 days later the federal court granted leave to the AG to proceed with the contempt bid. And on the 13th of July, the Apex Court of Malaysia heard submissions from both our legal teams, from Malaysiakini's legal team and also the Attorney General's legal team, on the merits of the committal action, and then it went on to reserve its judgment. That reservation has been, unrevealed until today. We will finally hear it, and this is because this is under the MCMC. We are looking at we're not sure about what the outcome exactly will be. There are apparently no limits under the law as to what the outcome of sentencing could be if Malaysiakini is found guilty of contempt of court. So stay tuned as we continue to bring you live updates here from the Palace of Justice in Putrajaya. Once again, I'm Daniel Anthony, coming to you live from Putrajaya on the decision on Malaysiakini's contempt of court case brought by the Attorney General. Good morning. If you've just joined us, welcome to Malaysiakini's live stream of our the court case that is being brought against Malaysiakini by the Attorney General's Chambers for contempt of court. The decision comes out today. If you've heard about this case before, yes, this decision has been postponed numerous times due to the movement control order that was imposed in March 2020. We are live from the Palace of Justice in Putrajaya, where our Malaysiakini Editor-in-Chief Stephen Gunn has just entered the courtroom, and the decision will be delivered soon. It is expected to be delivered rather quickly this morning, and we will continue to bring you live updates from the ground as and when it happens. For those of you watching and would like to show support for independent journalism, you can head on over to Malaysiakini.com to start a subscription with Malaysiakini in order to support independent journalism in Malaysia. As you can see on the live stream right now, we're looking at the barricade set up here in the Palace of Justice, Putrajaya. This is the limit of where journalists and video journalists and photographers actually are allowed to be, because they're due to the movement control order and also efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19. There are restrictions in place. It is a very interesting day here at the Palace of Justice because of this new change in how the standard operating procedures are being implemented over here. Now, according to an email from the Chief Registrar's Office of the Federal Court, journalists are allowed to follow proceedings, but they cannot do so from the courtroom, but instead via a live broadcast from the Assembly Hall at the Palace of Justice. Now, our journalists are in there, but videographers can't go in, so we are going to be right here at this red line that is being set up in the Palace of Justice to continue to bring you live updates as and when they come in. For our viewers' information, the case that is on today, the case that whose decision will be delivered today, was initiated in June last year over comments of 5 readers posted in a Malaysiakini news report, and these comments have since been removed. However, the Attorney General has taken a case against Malaysiakini for contempt of court due to the content of these comments. And the decision was expected to be delivered last year, but due to the movement control order, things have been postponed, and now we are waiting for the decision that will be delivered today and is expected to be delivered very, very soon. So stay tuned for that. Multiple organizations are holding watching briefs here at the Palace of Justice, and this includes the Bar Council, Human Rights Commission Suhakam, International Federation of Journalists IFJ, National Union of Journalists NUJ, Centre for Independent Journalism CIJ, and Gerakan Media Merdeka or Geram. Now, as with every court case, we can expect either a guilty or an innocent verdict. Guilty or not guilty verdict, I'm sorry. And should Malaysiakini be found guilty of contempt of court, then sentencing could be handed down today as well. And as of what we know, there is no legal limit to the penalties for contempt of court here in Malaysia. And among the possible outcomes is Malaysiakini being slapped with a fine or its editor-in-chief, Stephen Gunn, being sent to jail. In its 21-year history, Malaysiakini, this is the first time that Malaysiakini is being cited for contempt of court. Now, as of now, earlier, if you tuned in earlier, you would have seen us catch a glimpse of Stephen heading towards the courtroom where he said that he refrained from commenting, and this is because the court has ordered both the Attorney General's Chambers and Malaysiakini to refrain from making comments on the matter. And this in turn has prompted some organizations, both in Malaysia and abroad, to express some concern over the implications of the legal action until the decision is made. And that decision will come in just a short moment after its numerous postponements. 2 postponements, from what I understand, 2 postponements due to the movement control order, and now today the decision will be delivered. Due to the setup here at the Palace of Justice and the standard operating procedures implemented to curb the spread of COVID-19 under the movement control order, video journalists are only allowed to be here. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, there is a red line, and this red line is the limit of where video journalists and photojournalists are allowed to be today here at the Palace of Justice. However, we also have journalists who are watching from not inside the courtroom, actually, in a very interesting change of events because we are under the movement control order. Journalists are allowed to follow proceedings. They can't be in the courtroom, but there is a live broadcast from the Assembly Hall at the Palace of Justice. So we have journalists in there, and if you want to catch live updates from what's going on inside in the form of text, you can go to Malaysiakini.com. And while you're there, why don't you take out a subscription to Malaysiakini to support independent media here in Malaysia? For those of you just joining us, a very good morning to you. My name is Daniel Anthony, coming to you live from the Palace of Justice here in Putrajaya, where the court is expected to deliver its decision on the contempt of court case brought against Malaysiakini by the Attorney General. Our Malaysiakini editor-in-chief Stephen Gunn has just been seen entering the courtroom just not too long ago, and therefore we are expecting the decision to be out very, very soon. Do stay tuned as we continue to bring you live updates here from the Palace of Justice. Now, in Malaysiakini's 21-year history, this is the first time since the launch of Malaysiakini back in 1999 that a contempt of court case has been brought against the independent media organization. So Malaysiakini was established back in 1999 as an independent media that was based on the internet in order to be critical to the country's progress. So independent media informs citizens of current affairs and help them hold the government of the day accountable through citizen action, participating and voting decisions. Malaysiakini's existence is largely due to how online media has to date not been subject to the same licensing, and it allowed more diversity on the internet compared to traditional media such as print, radio and broadcast. Now, Malaysiakini is subscription-based, and that is the main source of our income. So in order to support independent media in Malaysia, we suggest you go on over to Malaysiakini.com and take out a subscription with Malaysiakini in order to provide your support. You can also follow live text updates from the courtroom being posted on Malaysiakini.com as we speak. As here, where we are with the camera right now, we are currently at the limit of where video journalists and photographers can enter the Palace of Justice. We are not allowed to go past this line. However, we have journalists inside a special arrangement in an assembly hall where the court case is being live streamed, and this is part of new standard operating procedures due to the movement control order implemented to curb the spread of COVID-19. Once again, a very good morning to all our viewers. We are coming to you live from the Palace of Justice in Putrajaya. Now, why are we here? We're here because today is when the decision on the court case against Malaysiakini for contempt of court will be delivered. Malaysiakini Editor-in-Chief Stephen Gunn has already entered the courtroom, and we're expecting the decision very, very soon. Right now, we are at the limit of where video journalists are allowed to proceed here in the Palace of Justice due to movement control order restrictions. And we will continue to bring you live updates when we can from here. Now, a few details about the court case whose decision will be delivered today. A little bit of information once again about this case here, the contempt of court case brought by the Attorney General against Malaysiakini. Currently, the court case was placed, Sorry about that. On the 13th of July last year, the Federal Court of Malaysia heard submissions from both sides, and based on the merits, it then went on to reserve its judgment, and therefore this judgment will be heard today here at the Palace of Justice. Now, in this particular case, Malaysiakini is arguing that showing publication does not invite contempt and that intention needs to be proven in order for a contempt of court case to be valid. However, that the prosecution, which is being brought by the Attorney General, the Attorney General is the Attorney General's representation argues that mere facility, just providing comment section on our website for posting comments, is already enough to cite one for contempt. Now, this case is being brought over comments that were posted on Malaysiakini.com, the news portal. And these comments have since been removed. So stay with us here as we continue to bring you live updates from the Palace of Justice in Putrajaya.
Selamat pagi dan terima kasih kerana menonton siaran langsung kami. Pada pagi ini, kami sedang melapor daripada Mahkamah Persekutuan Istana Kehakiman di Putrajaya. Hari ini, Mahkamah Persekutuan akan memberikan penghakiman terhadap pertuduhan menghina mahkamah ke atas Malaysiakini berhubung sejumlah komen pembaca di portal berkenaan. Selepas 2 kali ditangguhkan berikutan Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan PKP, Mahkamah Persekutuan akan membuat keputusannya pada hari ini. Wartawan dan member ahli media harus mengikuti prosiding melalui siaran langsung dari Istana Kehakiman. Sebagai langkah berjaga-jaga bagi membendung penyebaran COVID-19, wartawan dan juru gambar yang membuat liputan hanya dibenarkan berkumpul di lobi Istana Kehakiman. Sekali lagi, selamat dan terima kasih kerana menonton. Kami melapor pada Istana Kehakiman. Akan memberikan penghakiman sejumlah komen pembaca di portal. Mahkamah Persekutuan dari Istana Kehakiman. Sebagai langkah berjaga-jaga bagi membendung penyebaran COVID-19, wartawan dan ahli media yang membuat liputan hanya dibenarkan berkumpul di lobi Istana Kehakiman. Pada pengetahuan anda, panel 7 hakim yang diketuai Presiden Mahkamah Rayuan Rohana Yusof selesai mendengar hujah mengenai kes ini 7 bulan lalu. Pada 13 Julai, Mahkamah Persekutuan menangguhkan keputusan kes itu yang difailkan Peguam Negara Idris Harun terhadap Malaysiakini dan Ketua Pengarangnya Stephen Gunn. Selain Rohana, 6 anggota panel hakim lain ialah Ketua Hakim Mahkamah Tinggi Malaya Azhar Muhammad, Ketua Hakim Sabah dan Sarawak Abang Iskandar Abang Hashim dan Hakim Mahkamah Persekutuan Muhammad Zawawi Saleh, Nalini Pathmanathan, Vernon Ong Lam Kiat dan Abdul Rahman Sebli. Sekarang, kami masih menunggu keputusan tersebut, tetapi menurut Malik, dengan menunjukkan penerbitan sahaja, ia tidak mengundang penghinaan. Katanya, ia akan memberikan kesan buruk dari segi pelaksanaan kebebasan bersuara di bawah perkara 10 Perlembagaan Persekutuan. Namun, Peguam Kanan Persekutuan S. Narkunavati yang mewakili Peguam Negara berpendapat tidak ada syarat dalam undang-undang untuk menunjukkan bahawa Malaysia kini mempunyai niat untuk menerbitkan komen yang menghina mahkamah. Sekiranya Malaysia kini dan GAN didapati menghina mahkamah, hukuman boleh dijatuhi pada hari ini. Pada pengetahuan anda, tidak ada had hukuman dalam peruntukan undang-undang bagi kesalahan menghina mahkamah. Jadi, Malaysia kini kemungkinan boleh didenda dan GAN kemungkinan boleh dijatuhi hukuman penjara. Ini adalah kali pertama Malaysia kini didakwa menghina mahkamah sejak penubuhannya 21 tahun lalu.
That was Putri Inara giving you some BM translation and also a bit of narration about what's going on today. And right now, for those of you just joining us, we are live from the Palace of Justice here in Putrajaya, which houses the Federal Court of Malaysia. Why are we here? It's because the decision by the Federal Court, a 7-member panel of the Federal Court, on the contempt of court case brought against Malaysiakini by the Attorney General is expected to be delivered today. Malaysiakini Editor-in-Chief Stephen Gan has already entered the courtroom. Meanwhile, we're here in the lobby of the Palace of Justice, as this is the limit of where videographers and photojournalists are allowed to be due to new restrictions implemented under the Movement Control Order to curb the spread of COVID-19. However, we will be bringing you live updates as they happen right here from the lobby of the Palace of Justice. So let's take a trip back to the 13th of July 2020, and that was when this case was brought up here to the Apex Court of Malaysia, where the Federal Court heard the contempt proceedings against Malaysiakini. Right here, same place in this Palace of Justice. On that day, the Federal Court reserved its judgment on the Attorney General's case against Malaysiakini and its Editor-in-Chief Stephen Gan, where the Court of Appeal President Rohana Yusof said that the bench needed some time to deliberate. And unfortunately, due to the continued movement control order that was implemented due to COVID-19, this decision has been postponed 2 times, and now today we are finally expected to receive it. Sentencing may be handed down today as well after the decision on whether Malaysiakini is guilty or not guilty of contempt. Now, there are no limits on the sentencing for contempt of court. Possible outcomes include Malaysiakini being fined or its Editor-in-Chief Stephen Gan facing a jail term. The point of contention, which is what caused the Attorney General to bring this case against Malaysiakini, is 5 comments posted on a Malaysiakini article last year that was deemed to be in contempt of court by the Attorney General, and therefore these comments have already been taken down, but the case is still going on. Malaysiakini's lawyers argue that intent must be proven in order to prove contempt of court. However, this is being debated and is also being debunked by, not debunked, it's being argued by the Attorney General's legal counsel, saying that intention does not need to be proven as the platform was provided for such comments to be published. Malaysiakini receives over 2,000 comments from many readers every day. We have a content moderation system and a filter that does pick up certain comments. However, there is a large amount of comments we receive every day, a very active, ongoing conversation about current affairs here in Malaysia, and you can be part of the conversation as well by taking out a subscription over at malaysiakini.com. Now, due to our position here in the Palace of Justice, we are currently positioned at the limit of where video journalists are allowed to be today due to new restrictions under the Movement Control Order. However, we have journalists in the courtroom, not in the courtroom actually, in an assembly hall, which is watching a live video feed of the courtroom. Once again, also another measure under the Movement Control Order, and they will be posting live text updates on Malaysiakini.com. So head on over there to be the first to know about the developments and also the outcome of this case. So to bring you up to speed, proceedings have begun for the day. We've been informed that Malaysiakini CEO Pramesh Chandran is also in court, conferring with the lead counsel. And we also earlier saw Malaysiakini Editor-in-Chief Stephen Gan enter the courtroom. Now, Malaysiakini's lawyers say that there are three possible outcomes from today. First is that both Malaysiakini and Stephen Gan will be found not guilty of contempt. Secondly, Malaysiakini will be found guilty, but not the Editor-in-Chief Stephen Gan. And thirdly, both Malaysiakini and Gan could be found guilty. What's it going to be? We will have to hang in there to find out as we wait for the decision from the court. Once again, these updates from inside the chamber are being posted live to Malaysiakini.com by our journalists who are watching a live video feed in the assembly hall. A very unique way of approaching court, which is part of renewed standard operating procedures implemented due to the Movement Control Order in an effort to curb the spread of COVID-19 in Malaysia, and that includes right here at the Palace of Justice in Putrajaya. And as we're live here from the lobby, the Court of Appeal President Rohana Yusof has begun reading out the majority judgment in the contempt application against Malaysiakini. We will find out more very, very soon. Please stay tuned. And of course, to support independent journalism here in Malaysia, do take out a subscription to Malaysiakini.com. Just head on over to Malaysiakini.com to subscribe and support the independent media in Malaysia.
Itu Daniel dengan penuturan bahasa Inggeris. Bagi semua yang baru sahaja log masuk, selamat pagi dan terima kasih kerana menonton siaran langsung kami. Nama saya Putri Inara dan pada pagi ini, kami di Istana Kehakiman di Putrajaya untuk menunggu keputusan kes hina mahkamah terhadap Malaysiakini. Pada hari ini, Mahkamah Persekutuan akan memberikan penghakiman terhadap pertuduhan menghina mahkamah ke atas Malaysiakini yang berhubung dengan sejumlah komen pembaca di portal berkenaan. Selepas 2 kali ditangguhkan berikutan Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan PKP, Mahkamah Persekutuan akan membuat keputusannya pada hari ini. Wartawan dan ahli media Di samping itu, sebagai langkah berjaga-jaga bagi membendung penyebaran COVID-19, wartawan dan jurugambar yang membuat liputan hanya dibenarkan berkumpul di lobi Istana Kehakiman. Sebentar tadi, kami telah menyaksikan Stephen Gan memasuki ke ruang mahkamah. Sekarang, kami masih menunggu keputusan tersebut di lobi Istana Kehakiman di Putrajaya. Untuk menyokong kewatanan bebas, anda boleh melanggan Malaysiakini. Di Malaysiakini, kami membawakan anda berita-berita politik dan hal ehwal semasa negara, di mana sahaja anda berada. Pada pengetahuan anda, pada 13 Julai, Mahkamah Persekutuan menangguhkan keputusan kes ini yang difailkan Peguam Negara Idrus Harun terhadap Malaysiakini dan Ketua Pengarangnya, Stephen Gan. Panel 7 hakim yang diketuai Presiden Mahkamah Rayuan, Rahana Yusof, selesai mendengar hujah mengenai kes ini 7 bulan lalu. Selain Rohana, 6 anggota panel hakim lain ialah Ketua Hakim Mahkamah Tinggi Malaya, Azhar Mohamad, Ketua Hakim Sabah dan Sarawak, Abang Iskandar Abang Hashim, dan Hakim Mahkamah Persekutuan, Muhammad Zawawi Saleh, Nalini Pathmanathan, Vernon Ong Lamkiat dan Abdul Rahman Sebli. Ketika perbicaraan, Peguam Malaysiakini antaranya berhujah bahawa hasrat sebenar untuk menerbitkan komen yang dianggap menghina mesti dibuktikan untuk menyebabkan penghinaan, kata Peguam. Sekiranya Malaysiakini dan Gan didapati menghina mahkamah, hukuman boleh dijatuhi pada hari ini. Tidak ada had hukuman dalam peruntukan undang-undang bagi kesalahan menghina mahkamah. Justru, Malaysiakini kemungkinan boleh didenda atau Gan dijatuhi hukuman penjara. Ini adalah kali pertama Malaysiakini didakwa menghina mahkamah sejak penubuhannya 21 tahun lalu. Sebentar tadi, kami telah menyaksikan Stephen Gan memasuki ke ruang mahkamah. Sekali lagi, selepas beberapa kali ditangguhkan akibat Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan PKP, Mahkamah Persekutuan pada pagi ini akan menyampaikan keputusan mengenai tuduhan menghina mahkamah terhadap portal Malaysiakini. Sekiranya Malaysiakini dan Ketua Pengarangnya, Stephen Gan, didapati menghina mahkamah, hukuman boleh dijatuhkan pada hari yang sama. Tidak ada had hukuman untuk kes menghina mahkamah. Antara keputusan yang mungkin berlaku termasuk Malaysiakini dikenakan denda dan atau Gan dihukum penjara. Ini adalah kali pertama Malaysiakini menghadapi pertuduhan menghina mahkamah sejak penumpuhannya 21 tahun lalu. Langkah itu menarik perhatian banyak pihak, antaranya Pusat Kewartawanan Bebas (CIJ) yang mengatakan pertuduhan ini akan membawa kepada risiko lebih banyak penapisan media. Sebagai sedikit latar belakang, pada 15 Jun tahun lalu, Peguam Negara Idrus Harun mengemukakan permohonan menghina mahkamah terhadap portal berita tersebut. 2 hari kemudian, Mahkamah Persekutuan memberi kebenaran kepada Peguam Negara untuk meneruskan tuduhan berkenaan. Anggota panel Mahkamah Rayuan yang lain adalah Hakim Besar Mahkamah Tinggi Malaya Azhar Mohamad, Hakim Besar Sabah dan Sarawak Abang Iskandar Abang Hashim dan Hakim Mahkamah Persekutuan Muhammad Zawawi Saleh, Nalini Pathmanathan, Vernon Ong Lamkiat dan Abdul Rahman Sebli.
And a big thanks to Putri Nara for bringing you the Bahasa Malaysian narration of the events of this morning and the events leading up to the decision that will be delivered this morning here in the Palace of Justice Putrajaya. I'm Daniel Anthony and I'm coming to you live from the Palace of Justice here in Putrajaya, where we are waiting for the decision on the contempt of court case brought against Malaysiakini by the Attorney General. This decision has been postponed twice due to the movement control order, and today we're expected to receive its decision. Both Malaysiakini CEO Pramesh Chandran and Malaysiakini Editor-in-Chief are in the courtroom, and the court has begun the proceedings for the day. And as we speak, the Court of Appeal President Rohana Yusof is reading out the majority judgment in the contempt application against Malaysiakini. For a bit of history on this began last year when Attorney General Idrus Harun filed an application against Malaysiakini over comments posted on a news article that they deemed was in contempt of court. 2 days later, the federal court granted leave to the Attorney General to proceed with the contempt bid. And on the 13th of July, the Apex Court had heard the submissions from the legal teams of both sides, and then it went on to reserve its judgment. That judgment has been reserved and was supposed to be delivered, and that delivery was postponed twice due to the movement control order until today, when we're finally expected to be getting that decision. When the decision is delivered, it would either be a guilty or not guilty verdict. According to the Malaysiakini's lawyers, it could be one of three outcomes. The first outcome is that neither Malaysiakini nor its editor-in-chief Stephen Gan will be found guilty of contempt. The second outcome is that Malaysiakini may be found guilty of contempt, but Stephen will not. And the final outcome is both Malaysiakini and Stephen Gan will be found guilty of contempt. If there is a guilty verdict, sentencing could be handed down today itself. We're not sure whether this will happen, but please do stay tuned as we continue to bring you updates. But as of now, what we know is that there is no legal limit on penalties for contempt of court. So among possible outcomes is Malaysiakini could be slapped with a fine, or Stephen Gan could receive a jail sentence. And this is the first time that Malaysiakini is being cited for contempt of court in its 21-year history. Over to the case. When it comes to contempt of court, one of the biggest points of contention is whether intention needs to be proven in order for contempt of court to take place. And this is the argument being brought by Malaysiakini's lawyers, saying that intention was not involved, as this was posted by our readers. And Malaysiakini receives over 2,000 comments every single day. However, the Attorney General's Counsel has brought up under Section 114A of the Evidence Act that merely providing a service is already enough, and intention does not need to be proven in order for contempt of court to take place. If you're wondering where we are, we're actually in the lobby of the Palace of Justice. This is not the usual view that you might receive when watching our other live streams here at KiniTV. And this is because this is a new location that is allocated for videographers in response to new standard operating procedures imposed under the Movement Control Order. We have journalists stationed inside an assembly hall which is receiving a live feed of a courtroom, a stark contrast to the usual being able to be present in the courtroom, and this is also as part of new standard operating procedures for curbing the spread of COVID-19. While we're not allowed to the lobby of the courtroom, we are going to continue to bring you live updates from the lobby of the Palace of Justice here in Putrajaya. And as I mentioned earlier, Malaysiakini has over 2,000 comments every day, with many Malaysians chiming in with opinions and also their views on the political situation here in Malaysia. You can be a part of the conversation too by subscribing to Malaysiakini. Subscribers are allowed to post comments, and therefore with a subscription you can do so as well and contribute to our national conversation. To do so, you can subscribe by going to Malaysiakini.com, and as of this morning, we are opening a live blog where you'll be able to see updates as they come in the form of text straight out of the courtroom, as our journalists inside there will be posting it as and when it happens. So head on over to Malaysiakini.com and do consider giving us a subscription to help support the future of independent media here in Malaysia.
Kaya bahas.
Thank you.